matter doesn't exist without consciousness. Yes, you heard that right. The world out there, the trees, galaxies, mountains, even atoms, only exists because someone is perceiving it. Sounds insane? I know. But what if everything science calls objective reality is actually a kind of shared hallucination generated by something far more fundamental? Consciousness. Not as something your brain creates, but as the very thing that brings the universe into existence. Too mystical for you? Federico Faggin, the physicist who invented the first microchip, would disagree. After a radical experience of awareness, he had no doubt he was the universe observing itself. And no, it wasn't a metaphor. He saw himself as the whole and realized the separation between self and world is just an illusion. You're not in the universe. You are the universe, with a temporary point of view. If that makes you uncomfortable, good. It means the illusion is still holding on. In this video, we're going to break that illusion wide open and show you why consciousness isn't a product of matter. It's the other way around. So brace yourself, because once you see this for what it is, there's no going back. Subscribe and turn on notifications. YouTube isn't exactly pushing this kind of content. Most people believe consciousness is a byproduct of the brain, a spark that appears when neurons light up. But what if it's the other way around? What if the brain is just a tool, a tuner, like a radio, picking up something that exists before and beyond it? This idea makes many scientists uncomfortable because it shakes the foundations of almost everything modern science assumes. But it's an idea that's spreading, and it's not coming from cave-dwelling gurus or Himalayan monks. It's coming from physicists, neuroscientists, engineers, people like Federico Faggin, who built their lives on technology, logic, and matter, and then, suddenly, witnessed something that physics can't explain. A moment when consciousness stops being a concept and becomes an experience. One so intense, so clear, it unravels everything you thought you knew about what's real. Maybe you felt something like that before, even for a second. That sense that you are more than a body, more than a name, more than a thought. Maybe you couldn't explain it, but you knew. This video dives right into that, into the idea that consciousness doesn't just precede matter. It might actually be the source of all reality. And no, this isn't cult talk. We'll explore it through quantum physics, neuroscience, and the first-hand accounts of those who've experienced this awakening. And by the end, you might never see the world or yourself the same way again. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like there's more out there than what your eyes can see? If consciousness comes before matter, then everything we thought we knew is upside down. Gravity, light, time. Maybe they're not the gears behind the universe. Maybe they're just symptoms of a deeper mind operating silently behind the curtain. It's like watching a movie without realizing you're the projector. For decades, science searched for the God particle, the smallest brick of all. Each time one was found, a smaller one emerged. From atoms to electrons to quarks to bosons. And now, cutting-edge physics is whispering a new idea. Maybe there is no final brick, because the universe isn't made of matter, it's made of information. But information, for whom? Information only exists when something or someone interprets it. Without interpretation, it's just noise. It's consciousness that transforms bits into meaning. And maybe that's exactly what we've been ignoring. While we try to measure everything with rulers and clocks, we forget to ask, who's holding the ruler? Who is watching the clock? Imagine a hyper-realistic video game. Everything looks solid, logical, governed by physics. But only when a player steps in does the world begin to make sense. Without the observer, the game has no meaning. Maybe reality works the same way. This is the paradox at the heart of quantum mechanics. The famous double-slit experiment showed that particles behave differently depending on whether they're being observed. But this goes beyond physics. It reaches into your everyday life. When you recall a trauma, the very act of remembering changes the memory. Your attention reshapes the past. Your awareness molds the present. Now, stop and ask, if the universe needs your awareness to exist, who are you really? Are you just a mind inside a skull? Or is your mind the stage where the entire universe unfolds? Maybe the real question isn't what is consciousness, but where is consciousness? Because if it's not inside you, maybe you are inside it. This isn't a new idea. From ancient Eastern philosophy to Western esotericism, there's a recurring theme. The external world is a mirror of the internal one. Science dismissed it as poetic metaphor until evidence started piling up. Neuroscientist Carl Pribram suggested the brain works like a hologram, not as a generator of mind, but as a decoder of frequencies coming from a larger field, a field of pure consciousness. If that's true, then your body is just an antenna, and your soul, whatever you choose to call your true self, exists beyond time and space. Now think, why do you feel the pull towards something beyond? Why do people meditate, pray, lose themselves in music, or weep under a starry sky? Maybe because, deep down, you remember something no one ever told you, but you've always known. And this might explain why near-death experiences, deep meditations, or controlled use of certain psychoactive substances tend to reveal the same thing. A sense of unity, a realization that everything is connected, not metaphorically, but experientially. These experiences don't create an illusion. They dissolve the illusion of separateness, the illusion of out there, the illusion that consciousness is locked inside your head. For a brief moment, you wake up from the dream, and the real question is, why do we forget? Why are we born without remembering where we came from? Maybe the human experience is a kind of sacred amnesia, a veil drawn on purpose so we can rediscover truth when we're ready. It sounds poetic, but neuroscience is starting to explore the concept of non-local consciousness, the idea that our thoughts, feelings, and awareness may not be confined to the brain. And there are countless stories, people leaving their bodies during cardiac arrest, describing details from rooms they shouldn't be able to see. Blind individuals reporting visual experiences during out-of-body episodes. Memories from beyond the five senses. This shouldn't happen if the mind is locked inside the skull, but it does. And as science pushes forward, it keeps colliding with mystery. A mystery that no formula can solve, but that can only be experienced. And here comes the twist. If consciousness is the root of reality, then you are the root of reality. Not because the world revolves around you, but because the world unfolds within you. The sun doesn't rise for you. You awaken the sun. Sound arrogant? It's actually the opposite. It's a deep responsibility. If you create the world with your awareness, then what you see, feel, and believe truly matters. You're not a passenger in this universe. You are the author of the story, not of what happens, but of how it is lived. And that might be the greatest power of all, to transform reality through how you perceive it. The world isn't fixed. It's a dance between what is and what you are, which means every thought, every emotion, every intention is shaping the universe. Now you understand why this theory makes people uncomfortable? Because it takes power away from the formulas and gives it back to you. If you're inside consciousness, then what exactly is this world around you? Maybe everything we call reality is actually an interface, like an operating system, designed to be usable by a limited observer. You've never seen the universe's source code. All you see is the graphical interface, the friendly dashboard that appears on your perception's screen. Trees, buildings, bodies, people, they're icons, symbolic representations of something infinitely more complex beneath the surface. What if time is just a way to organize experience? What if space is only a convention? What if the outside world is a momentary projection of consciousness, just so it can look back at itself? That's what some branches of science are beginning to accept. The reality you perceive is not reality as it is. It's the version your mind can process. Like a VR headset. You see a rendered forest, but underneath, it's all data, algorithms, frequencies. So the real question becomes, who's holding the controller? Who put you inside this game? And more than that, why don't you remember? These questions open the door to the second major issue of this theory. If consciousness is the foundation of the universe, then what is death? Because if the body is just a temporary vehicle, then consciousness doesn't die with it. And indeed, accounts of near-death experiences, out-of-body moments, and even memories of past lives are abundant and eerily consistent. People from different cultures describing the same symbols, sensations, visions, not as beliefs, but as lived experiences. As if consciousness, for a brief moment, stepped outside the game and came back with fragments of memory from beyond the simulation. What if that process isn't an exception? What if it's the rule? What if birth is just a login and death the log out? That idea transforms how you see life. It stops being a race against time and becomes a journey of learning inside a carefully constructed space-time field, a cosmic classroom. But here's the twist. You chose to be here. That's right. If consciousness predates matter, then it also predates your birth. And if it predates your birth, it might have chosen this body, this era, this experience. Not out of masochism, but out of evolution. And that changes everything. What once seemed random, pain, trauma, challenges, starts to make sense. You're not a victim of chance. You're an explorer in a learning universe, and the consciousness that manifests in you as I is here to expand, to remember, to integrate. That's powerful, but it's also terrifying. Because it means you carry responsibility. You're a co-creator of the experience you live, and more than that, you influence the experience of everyone around you. Because if everyone is within the same consciousness, then there is no other. What you do to another echoes back to you. The universe stops being a machine and becomes an organism, and consciousness is the invisible thread connecting every part. That's why your thoughts, emotions, and choices ripple through the field. The world doesn't shift on its own. It shifts with you. And maybe that's the hardest truth to accept. Because it's easier to blame the system, the government, destiny, karma. But if you're in a dream that you helped design, then maybe it's time to start lucid dreaming. This is where things get truly fascinating. Quantum physics tells us that reality exists in a state of potential until it is observed. What collapses the wave function is the observer. That means your attention isn't passive, it's creative. You're not just looking at the world, you're shaping it with every glance, and that's not spiritual metaphor, it's physics. Whether the collapse truly depends on consciousness is still debated, but more scientists are beginning to entertain the possibility. Even if you ignore quantum mechanics, your own life proves it. Where you place focus expands. If you feed anger, it consumes you. If you nurture gratitude, the world changes its color. It's as if the universe is listening, always. Not to your requests, but to your frequency. What if that's how it works? What if the world doesn't respond to what you say, but to what you are? Then every thought is a seed. Every emotion, a magnet. every intention a silent command. You may not control what happens, but you always control how you respond. And that response sculpts your reality. This theory isn't here to comfort you. It's here to wake you up. Because if consciousness is the center of reality, then you are part of the center. And the universe is more responsive than you think. It's not a rock, it's a river. It's not fixed, it's sensitive. Which leads us to a final turning point. If the universe is consciousness knowing itself, then you are the eye of creation. You are the viewpoint of eternity observing itself. Everything you live, feel, and learn feeds into that greater awareness. Every choice you make is a brushstroke on the cosmic canvas. Every moment of clarity is a candle lit in the dark. You are so much more than you think. Not because you are special, but because you are essential. Without you, the universe wouldn't know it exists. If the universe is consciousness knowing itself, then you are the eye of creation. You are the viewpoint of eternity observing itself. And everything you live, feel, and learn feeds into that greater awareness. Every choice you make is a brushstroke on the cosmic canvas. Every moment of clarity is a candle lit in the dark. You are far more than you think. Not because you're special, but because you're essential. Without you, the universe wouldn't know it exists. Now, click on the next video that appears on the screen. The journey continues, and consciousness never stops expanding. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.